Hi, coming to you live from a frosty morning in the mountains. Tune in with me to find out why I do not recommend parasite cleansing for most people. If you can, this is a really important topic, and I invite you to share this video so that more people can save themselves from that setback of detoxing in the wrong order. I'm Sienna Songbird. I am a liver flush guide, and I'm passionate about passing along tips to save you time on the natural healing path. So, a lot of people are recommending parasite cleansing, and I totally understand why. We have a lot of problems with parasites. We are chock full of parasites. It really is a kind of pandemic, but I do not recommend starting with parasite cleansing, and you really need to be careful before you start actively trying to kill off the parasites, and I'm going to go into why that is. So the first reason is that the system is in general already really taxed, and the detox pathways and systems are working overtime. They are doing their best, but in general, they're usually not keeping up. And for this reason, if we add a substantial amount of die-off and toxins to process, that system is not going to perform that well for you, and you may experience increased symptoms. And also, if the body can't actually properly take care of the toxins that are newly released, the body may have to put them into areas that it would rather not to, and may create longer term issues or issues that are going to be harder to detox down the road. So let's talk about, first of all, why is it important to detox in the proper order, to clean up the body in the proper order? Well, there's this thing called the drainage system. And you can imagine like a funnel that's coming down and it's draining out of the body. And the most important part, right, is where is the base, is the bottom of this funnel. If it's blocked here at the narrow area where it all needs to come through, then toxicity is going to just recycle or basically back up. It's kind of like the trash, the trash truck that's coming to pick up the trash. It's like, if the truck isn't having anywhere to be empty, the truck is just full, then maybe you put new trash bags on top of the truck, but they're just falling off and they're being dropped and they're basically polluting everywhere they go. So what's at the base of this drainage pathway is the colon. So this is just the most basic preliminary aspect to get about detoxification, healing, and the drainage system. If the colon is blocked, for example, if you have constipation to any degree, then this entire system, everything that comes above the colon, is not going to be able to be getting out. So we are going to be re-intoxifying in our body and basically not making much progress. So this is where we start. That's the base of the funnel, is the colon. And that's why it's super crucial to make sure that you are setting yourself up with both diet or the minerals or the mechanical assistance such as enemas to make sure that that things are moving through. This is like, we actually absorb a lot back in the intestines. And so if our bodies are in a high detox mode, you have toxicity and things that are going to be reuptaked there in the colon. So this is where like also binders can be helpful. Binders can be helpful. My little Ewok is growling. It's okay. Binders can be helpful, but that's a tricky place, because binders often increase the constipation issues. So we really have to clear the constipation before we can even bring in helpful binders that can sort of stop things up in the intestines. But you can always start with like more fiber in your food, and these kinds of things to just help sort of sweeping through that area. Right up from the colon, so we have that colon's at the base of the funnel. Right up from there, we have the liver bile ducts, and this is a super crucial area that can often be overlooked. And it needs to not be overlooked, because if the liver bile ducts are blocked in any way, if the drainage is not flowing there, then everything that comes from above it is going to get stuck there, and we're not actually going to be making progress with our healing and our detoxing. And what comes above there are the kidneys, the skin detoxing, the lungs, the lymphatics, the glymphatics in the brain, and any other of these small systems that are detoxing above. That all drains through the liver, bile ducts, and then the colon. So, what happens when we kill parasites, or we try to kill parasites? The body is basically flooded with a bunch of toxicity as they die, they get upset, they release certain chemicals and compounds to communicate to the other parasites in the colonies, to warn them, and also they release things when they're dying. And then, not to mention that the parasites themselves are usually sequestering quite a bit of toxins, and if you kill them in the wrong way, then they kind of explode and they kind of like release all of the stuff that they were actually protecting you from, that was carried inside of them. And this can again backfire and cause you to regress in your health as opposed to getting better when you try to kill parasites. Now, I'm not saying that we should just be fine forever with parasites, sort of taking over our different systems, but the real question to ask is, why are they there? And they are there for a reason. I really like the terrain theory, and to think about that when we have toxicity or dead, diseased tissue, I like to think of it as like, it's like a compost pile, and it needs to be decomposed. It needs to be broken down, even just the toxins or the acidic buildup or this like stagnation that's led to, dying cells that haven't been cleaned up enough. If our body can't handle that cleanup, that chewing through, that metabolizing, that composting, it invites in other secondary creatures as part of its ecosystem to help process that. I mean, you can see this in nature, and we are nature. So sometimes when we damage an area of the earth or an area of the soil, there are particular species that are the first emergers to sort of help recolonize or process some of that toxicity. They see this with like oil dumps or spills, issues where there's been large contamination areas. There are certain kinds of species, and a lot of them are actually in the fungus kingdom, that help to really metabolize and break those things down. But viruses can help, bacteria can help, fungus can help, and if you really need the big guns, you bring in the parasites. And of course, there are microscopic parasites, there are single-celled parasites, and then there are all the way up to really quite large specimen. So depending on what your body's territory, what the ecosystem needs, that's what's going to be prevalent there. So this is another reason why, it's good to know what you're doing, and not necessarily to just try to kill off certain pathogens, certain species, because if you don't know the reason they're there and you don't remove that root cause, then you may actually be working against your body. For example, a really obvious example is this like war on Candida that at least used to be really popular. And Candida is a yeast, it's a fungus that does a really good job of picking up and sort of eating heavy metals. And when we pinpoint candida as the problem child, and we try to eradicate it by starving it out and taking all these supplements, these different regimens, but especially like this anti-candida diet and all these things, we try to sort of starve it out, kill it off. We're not really acknowledging the fact that it's there for a reason and it's protecting us, and we desperately do need candida in our system. We're never going to eradicate it entirely. And a lot of times we find that if we lower the candida too much, well, its reason to be there is still there, then we're going to get more severe results of poisoning and toxicity from those heavy metals. Or we just force other species to come up and pick up the slack that the candida no longer can do. So that's just a little example of how all of these pathogens are, at least if you believe in terrain theory, which is something that I really like. The body is smart, nature is smart, it has intelligence, and it's working in a purposeful way. And so the better we can see and appreciate that, as opposed to just condemning it as wrong and trying to redirect it, the better results really we're going to have. And in terms of parasites, although I do have a passion for specifically working to clear those out, it is also worth noting that some of the things that you do to help open this drainage pathway and clear things out so that this exit path, this flow can be happening, really do kill parasites off anyways. You will find that as you improve the ecosystem, as the waste is taken out, even the small backing up of daily waste, as the liver gets more operational, as the colon gets more efficient, the lowering of that toxic bloodstream and this sort of buildup of trash will naturally start to shift the ecosystem of the body towards more life and less of that need for calling in these like really powerful composters, these decomposers. So you will find that as you pursue the path of liver flushing and clearing the liver, including with coffee enemas, also enemas in general, that amazing way that we just start to naturally siphon off and sort of allow the removal, the passage, the exit of a lot of these pathogens and these parasites. So the first thing I would recommend is turning your focus really, really directly onto these drainage pathways, opening up the liver bile ducts, opening up the colon, and seeing what happens through those protocols. You may find that parasites naturally start clearing out as you are opening up those pathways. And then once you have that good flow going, then talk to me about what we can do next to more specifically target the reason the parasites are there, and also sort of bringing down that population and shifting the ecosystem back to, more balance and more life promoting and human promoting colonies and creatures. So I hope this has been really helpful. And again, I'd ask you to please share this video. If you have anyone that is confused about this topic, I think it's really important, because I don't want to see people hurting themselves by doing these drastic measures of killing off parasites when their system is just going to be backing up and re-intoxifying themselves. So wishing smooth paths, and clear direction for everyone who is trying to heal themselves in the natural way. Wishing you many blessings. And thank you for tuning in. I'm Sienna Sung.